Welcome to our class on conditional statements in Python. We'll be using several scenarios to discuss conditional statements in Python. Let us start with the first scenario. Let's say we are creating a Jollof Rice Wars decision maker. Let's create a variable called party. We'll say party equals, we want to use the input function because we want to collect inputs, okay? We open parentheses, and then we write a string and ask the question, where the party. We want to ensure that because it's an input function, we want to make sure that users know the items to input, okay? We don't want to just leave it empty, all right? So we'll open another parenthesis and just basically state what the selection range will be. So we want to say wedding, okay, /birthday, another / Christmas. Then we will close these parentheses with a colon, give space. Okay, the reason we are giving space is because when we say, where's the party, we'll have this to notify for selection and we want to give space to impute our entry. So we've declared this variable now. Let us use the if statement now, and we'll say if party, that is party being the variable we created, is equal to wedding. So because we use if, we will need to close the if statement with a colon. And when we hit enter, you will notice we have an indentation, right? And that indentation is because we properly closed this. Okay, so let us print a string, anti-chemis, wedding jollof, reign supreme. Okay, so we want to enter another condition. The if gives us our first condition to check. Let us enter for the second condition to check. The second condition to check, we will use the elif. So we'll say elif party equal birthday. Remember, we have to close this condition, right? We will now say print the string Rakunle birthday jollof is on fire. Let us have the last condition check, which will be the else. Okay, so the else now says that if the first condition, which is our first condition to check, is not it, the second condition, the elif, is not it, definitely it should be the else, right? Okay, that is the else is used if all other conditions have failed to come true. Okay, so let's say else print, right? Christmas family jollof wins. So let's take a look at this code and basically understand the if, elif, and else. So we created a variable called party, and the party is going to hold our input. Hence, we use the input function, right? And we want users to answer the question, where's the party? But we don't want them to answer outside of a list. So we give them options, say wedding, birthday, or Christmas. If our input here for party is wedding, it will print anti-chemist wedding jollof reign supreme. But if they pick birthday, then party will now be equal to birthday. It will say Brother Kunle's birthday jollof is on fire. But if any of these two are not selected, let's say Christmas was selected instead, so that is what the else stands to do. If the first condition fails, the elif stands for the second condition, then the else gives us the third condition in this case. So let us run our code now and see what happens. Okay, now we've run our code, and you can see because we have the input function has requested for us to enter our input, okay? You see, where's the party? Is it wedding, birthday, or Christmas? So let me just go ahead and input birthday, right? Okay, as I've imputed birthday, I will hit enter, okay? So it will now go to this condition where it says if party equals birthday, let it print Brother Kunle's birthday jollof is on fire. So that is why he printed Brother Kunle's birthday jollof is on fire. Okay. If we run this code and I pick Christmas as my response, if I say Christmas, right? What is going to happen now is that it will give us our else response, right? So if I hit enter, you are going to see that Christmas family jollof wins. So the second scenario will be a light checker, right? So we want to use the conditional statements to predict when light will come back, okay? We will be creating a variable called units left. So we want to enter the units left in our prepaid meter. So we'll say unit left equals, so we remember when we talked about data types, right? And we say integers are written in Python as int, right? So we want an input function, but we want to tell the input function what data type to collect. And in this case, we want to collect integers, right? Say whole numbers, okay? So say input, we want to write the string now. How many units are left on your meter? So we'll put a question mark, and remember, we will always give space to allow to collect the inputs, okay? So let us start our first condition, right, with the if, okay? So if units left is equal to 0, okay, which remember to close that. So print a string, it don't happen, prepare for darkness, okay? So this is just like saying, well, if your unit is 0, that means you will not have light, right? You'll be in darkness. So let us add a second layer to our condition. So we want to add a second condition. So we'll say elif, right? Units left is less than or equal to 50. Close that. Print, let's enter a string, light day, but in no go day, right? So this is just basically saying that, okay, you have about 50 units left. There will be light, but it won't be long before the units run out. Okay, so let's add the final layer, and the final layer will be our else, right? We'll say else, print, let's add the string, 24 light day, 247. So this is just like saying that you have like 24 hours, 7 days a week. Okay. So what we have done is that we created a variable called units left. And this variable is going to collect an input, and the input is going to be an integer. We basically wrote the question, which is a string, how many units are left on your meter, right? Remember, we kept the space for us to be able to have our input. So we added the first layer of our conditions. And we say if units left is equal to 0, print it don't happen, prepare for darkness, meaning there is no light, right? Because your unit is 0. So our second layer of the conditional statement, the elif, gives the condition that if units is less than or equal to 50, let it say there is light, but it won't be long before units run out. So our final layer, the else, right, we will now say print light day 24/7. That is to say that if we provide an input greater than 50, right, that is to say we can have light 247, right? Okay, that is what this code wants us to test. I must add that it's not a must for us to always have these three layers. You could just have if and else if you're just testing one condition. However, if you're testing multiple conditions, you definitely will use the elif. Okay, so let us run this code and see what happens. It asks us how many units are left on your meter. So if we say 0, for instance, and hit enter, you see our response will be it don't happen, prepare for darkness, right? Because we said our units is equal to 0. If we rerun it and say our unit is 50, for instance, and we hit enter, it's going to say like day, but it no go take, right? Because we said if it's less than or equal to 50, it should print like day, but it no go take. But if we rerun this code now and provide anything, say above 50, say 55, it's going to tell us that like day 247. So this is another simple way for us to see how our conditional statement works in Python. Let's look at the third scenario. The third scenario is us using the conditional statements in Python to create a Keke Napep fare calculator. Here in Nigeria, we commonly refer to tricycle as Keke Napep. Let us write this code to determine our transport fare by first creating a variable called passenger, okay? And we'll say passenger equal, and we want to collect an input, right? If we want to collect decimals, we can use float, right? So we'll say float, and we want to make sure it's an input, right? We want to collect an input. So we use the input function. We'll ask how many people for the Keke, okay? This is basically asking how many passengers will you carry in your tricycle, okay? So let's go and write the first condition, right? So if passenger greater than 4, okay, remember to always close it. Print string omo na overload you go add 200 naira. Okay, so let's add the second layer. So say elif passenger equal to 4. Remember to close, print, open parentheses, the higher na 2000. Okay, so let's add the final layer. We'll say else, print, open parentheses, enter string, normal fare is 1000 naira. So you see now, here we are going to be collecting a float input, okay? Just using it for a float input so that you will just see an example, okay? So we say if passenger is greater than 4, so basically saying it's overload and you have to pay an extra 200 naira. And if passenger, or else if passenger is equal to 4, then you are getting a full hire, right? So you're basically paying for every one of the 4 passengers that will be in the tricycle. Else, print normal fare is 1000. So if you run this code, you're going to see how many people for the Keke, basically asking how many people will the Keke carry. So if let's try 5 and see, and you hit enter. So you say omo na overload, you go add extra 200 naira. Now I just added this float to show us an example, right? For instance, if we run this code and for any reason you want to enter, say, a number, or you are writing a code for a number that has, say, 5.5, for instance, you see, it will collect it. However, if we change this to integer, okay, and you run this code and you have an entry like 5.5, what happens is that you have an error. So that is the reason why I just had to use the float to show us, right? That if you're expecting users to enter decimals, you definitely would use float, okay? So if you rerun this and enter a decimal place number, you won't have any problem, okay? So the fourth scenario will be an age check for a party, right? So we are going to be creating 2 variables now here, right? So the first variable will be age. We want to collect the age of the attendees, and age will usually are collected in whole numbers, right? So it's going to be integer, okay? And since we are collecting an input, it's only fitting that we use the input function. So we now ask the question, how old are you, right? Give space, all right? Then we want to enter another variable called escort. okay? And escort will be equal to an impute because we just want to impute a string, and the string will be you have an escort. So we want to make sure that users can know that we want them to select between yes or no, right? So I'm going to add yes, no, okay, and close this here and give a space, okay? So let's go on to our conditional statement. We will say if age is greater than or equal to 18, right? Prince, welcome to the party, okay? So the second layer now, we use the leave. Escort equal to yes, as a string yes, print, go in with escort, else print, you are too young to be by yourself in the party. All right. So now this is straightforward, right? And remember, we use integer because we expected to collect age, which we give as integers, right? So let's run this code and see. You say, how old are you, right? And we enter our age, let's say 19, okay? And you see, because of our second input, which is escort, okay? If we say no, just watch what happens. If we say no, right? Because we are 19, it still tells us welcome to the party because we don't need to have an escort if we are older than 18, right? We don't need that. But if we run the code again and give any age that is less than 18, let's say 17, and it asks the question, you have an escort? If we say no, watch what happens. You are too young to be by yourself in the party. So this is how it works, right? Let's look at last but not the least scenario, and that will be market price negotiation. We want to bargain like a pro at the Balogun market in Lagos, okay? So we will write the first variable called price, and we want to collect an input, right? So, and the input will be an integer, right? We are going to add a string, say, what is the original price? Okay. Another variable will enter will be my offer, right? So after asking for the original price, I want to give my offer. I'll say my offer also it's an integer, okay? And we want to use the input function because when you ask the price, you want to give your offer, isn't it? Okay. I will now say as a string, this is my offer. All right. Then let us add our first condition. So if my offer is less than price now, right? Price divide by 2. So let's print a string, say an exclamation. You want my oga pursue me. Okay. So this is the first condition. So let's use the second layer, a leaf, right? My offer is less than price multiplied by 0.7, print beg, add small, make we settle. So this is the seller saying add something, add some money so that we can agree on the price. If this is not the case, so we use the else, print my oga, now you equal. So this is just saying that you were offered the price and you did not negotiate or you did not bargain. So you just paid all at once. Okay. All right. Let's run this code. It asks us, what is the original price? Say we were told 100,000. All right. Okay. I hit enter and I said 45,000, right? Because we said if my offer is less than price divided by 2, price divided by 2 in this case will be 50,000, but I offered 45,000, right? This is when you say, my oga will pursue me, okay? You see, that is what happens. But guess what? If we run this code again and we're given 100,000, okay, and I offered say 90,000. Okay, you see my organa Ubiko because I have satisfied this condition where price is multiplied by 0.7. That is to say, what I offered is higher than the multiplication of price by 0.7. Okay, thank you so much for joining. Do well to subscribe and share it to as many people as possible to join this learning challenge. Remember that this notebook and the codes are available on the description section of this video.